the economic conditions in the US and in Canada, there is a stark difference. I remember a few days ago in the House of Commons, you referenced an article from the New York Times, was it?
Yes.
Which was talking about how Canadians were making more money about 10, 12 years ago, but now the situation has flipped.
Yes, and the New York Times wrote an article, said, welcome to Canada, the home of the world's most affluent middle class in 2015. That was the last year of the Harper government. In it, they point out that median income was actually equal between Canadians and Americans. Fast forward to present, the per capita GDP, or income per person, is now $22,000 higher in the U.S. versus Canada when you measure it both in U.S. dollars. 22,000 U.S. dollars. So that's over 30,000
Canadian.
and that's just in one decade. You think about it, this is the Americans, this is the Canadians, this is the gap that has happened. Our per capita GDP in Canada is actually lower than it was a decade ago, while the Americans have grown almost 20%. This is a staggering phenomenon. We've had a 70% increase in Canadians leaving to go live in the United States. $500 billion more Canadian investment dollars have gone south to the States than have come back. And that's Canadian money building American pipelines, businesses, technology, and jobs for American workers.
But given the kind of tax cuts that the Trump administration is promising for the corporations, this outflow could only increase.
It's going to accelerate because it's on top of that, Trudeau wants to raise taxes. He's planning a 61 cent a liter carbon tax. All the trucks that deliver food to your grocery store, parts to factories and warehouses, they're going to go to the States. Donald Trump is going to be on the phone calling our businesses saying, hey, you don't want to pay the carbon tax in Canada? No problem. Drive 50 kilometers south down here. We'll take your business. We'll take your jobs. You can leave the poverty behind. And
so what's our strategy then? Cut taxes, but then do we have the room to cut taxes? The revenue loss that's going to occur, how do we make up for that loss?
Two ways. One, we have to cut wasteful spending and bureaucracy. We have to bring in a dollar for dollar law that requires we find $1 of savings for every new dollar of spending. We need to unleash growth in this country. Again, we've had no growth in 10 years. So repeal the anti-energy law C-69 to unleash the production of Canadian oil, gas, mining, pipelines, LNG liquefaction plants. You know, the biggest single infrastructure project in Canadian history is LNG Canada in northwestern British Columbia, $40 billion, totally privately funded, approved by the previous Conservative government. I want to have 20 of those across the country to sell our clean, green Canadian gas to Asia and Europe, who are crying out for that gas. That would bring home tens of billions of dollars of revenues from abroad to bolster our dollar and generate tax revenues for our governments without raising taxes. In fact, we need to cut taxes to bring in more revenue because taxes crush growth. By having a pro-growth, bring-it-home tax cut, we can generate the growth that will pay our bills and reduce our debt levels.